Hello and welcome everyone, a new episode of Money Means Business. Today we do have a bundle of economic news and such huge and intensive activities by Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli along with other top executives, whether inside or outside Egypt. And if you permit me, we are going to start immediately as we do have a lot to speak about. Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli witnessed the inking of FAO framework program in Egypt. Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli witnessed on Saturday the signing ceremony of the framework program of the Food and Agriculture Organization FAO of the United Nations in Egypt. At the ceremony was also attended by FAO Director General Q Dongyu and International Cooperation Minister Dr. Rania Al-Mashat. The program was inked by Minister of Agriculture and Land Reclamation Dr. Said Al-Qasir and FAO Assistant Director General and Regional Representative for the Near East and North Africa Abdel Hakim Al-Wa'ir. The FAO program in Egypt is part of the UN Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework to support the government to realize development goals and achieve Egypt Vision 2030 and Presidential Initiative Decent Life or Haya Karima. The Agriculture Minister lauded close cooperation between Egypt and the FAO in light of their ongoing coordination to meet the food security related needs. And before going into the second main event which took place today under the auspices of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, which is the conference and exhibition of medical tourism, and which was witnessed and attended by Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli, as he also addressed the conference and inspected the pavilions of the exhibition. Let me first welcome my dear guest live here in the studio, Dr. Mohamed, Ghamry, Industry and Energy Consultant. Thank you very much for being with us, sir.
Thank you very much.
And let's start, as I said, we do have a lot to speak about. And today, this very important conference and exhibition, and to announce also the first medical tourism hub in Egypt and efforts exerted by the state to turn Egypt into a medical tourism hub, not only for the Middle East, but for the whole world. As Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli said it, millions of people cross the borders of their countries for health care. And as far as I know, and just before being on air, you told me about a very ambitious plan for specific medical files and medical tourism in specific, which you are involved in. And this is going to be such a good surprise for all who are suffering from diabetic foot.
Yes.
I'd like to know the details.
Sure, of course. Trying to make Egypt as one of the medical or medical tourism hubs in the Middle East is not only a gift of the location, of the weather, but also a lot of effort has to be done by the people in the medical environment in general. One of the most promising inventions that is being done in Egypt nowadays is, instead of leaving people suffering from diabetic foods until the case gets worse and we have to terminate one of their foots or legs, using the new technology of 3D printing to 3D print the tissues of the skin to generate a new tissues instead of suffering until it comes to an end to terminate it. This is not only a technology, it's been applied nowadays by some of the companies in Egypt, which is involved in a lot of research and development, and this surgery can be done nowadays for many people in Egypt.
And sir, how do you see investing in this field? I mean, let's say, is it a brand new field, but the efforts exerted by the state is going to attract more investors and more industry men to be able not only to invest, but even to invade new markets and to meet the local market needs and move also to exporting our products. True?
This is definitely true, because such surgery is very expensive for people who are suffering not only from the diabetic foods, but also from liver and kidney. People who are trying to transplant a kidney, nowadays its next step is to even 3D print a kidney. Which means that instead of spending a lot of money to transplant a new kidney, which might not be existing with the same type of blood, doing an engineering product somehow can solve the problem, which is by the end of the day is an investment issue. If people will invest in such technology, this means that they will have a non-competition product that will allow them to go and sell this product and to ease the curing of such diseases in Egypt and everywhere.
Yeah. These are such good news for people who are suffering from all these chronic diseases, and inshallah Egypt is going in the very near future to turn to be a hub for medical tourism. As you've kindly mentioned, those only are 2 or 3 of the new branches we are going to invade, but still it's very first steps in a long journey.
Correct.
Sir, also there was another important, let's say, event which took place in Algeria this time. As I said in my intro, there are extensive efforts and activities by our top executives, and this time it's Engineer Tariq Al-Mullah, Minister of Petroleum and Mineral Resources, who participated as a representative of Egypt, and he was the key speaker in the extraordinary ministerial meeting of the Gas Exporting Countries Forum, GECF, in Algeria. As Minister of Petroleum also gave the speech of Egypt on behalf of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi in the important gathering. And he had also other meetings on the sidelines of the event. Sir, when it comes to gas exploration, when it comes to natural gas, when it comes to clean sources of energy, this is the future. Definitely. And the president said it more than once that green economy, the green fuel, green hydrogen, transferring into clean energy, this is the future. How do you see this, and how do you see Egypt looking forward to turn also to be a Middle East hub for renewable clean energy?
To start with, energy is one of the things that people cannot live without. So having energy is something that is very essential for everyone. But in the meantime, energy should not harm the environment. That's why all of the countries all over the world are putting their effort to get more cleaner energy, and many of those has been a very focal points in many of the countries. Egypt, as you mentioned, is putting a lot of effort for green hydrogen, for renewable energy like solar energy generation. We have in Egypt, in Bimban, one of the biggest solar panel field all over the world. And we are moving forward to get this into majority of the energy being generated in Egypt. In the meanwhile, as you mentioned, different types of products are moving into using green energy rather than using the fossil oil. Most of the oil countries in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, are investing a lot to find renewable resources to replace the oil which is coming very soon.
Let me take, if you permit me, some of the statements which were said by Minister Al-Mullah in his speech. He pointed out to the important role of natural gas, which represents the decisive element in achieving the energy transition in a fair, feasible, and appropriate way to the needs of countries. As a man of industry and a man of energy too, how do you see this in Egypt? I mean, to what extent do you think that our industrial sector is now depending on natural gas in many domains, and this is going to be also a first step in a long journey?
Natural gas is one of the type of the fossil fuels that is not very polluting like the gasoline or the diesel. And that's why everyone is moving into natural gas. As you mentioned, in Egypt, a long time ago, we had a call from the Egyptian government to develop or to convert some of the gasoline cars into natural gas. Most of the big companies and factories are now depending on natural gas, mainly to reduce the harm of the gasoline and diesel fuel.
Fossil fuels.
Fossil fuel in general. But definitely natural gas is one step forward, which means that later on maybe solar, wind energy, and sometimes the ocean energy is coming to replace all of those.
And he also said that they reviewed the efforts to secure energy resources in parallel with efforts to reduce emissions and to remove carbon from natural gas. As you've kindly
Definitely,
mentioned,
yes.
this is also to maintain our environment. And this is also related to medical tourism. Simply, when we do have a clean environment, we are going to be able to attract more medical tourism beneficiaries, if I may call it this way. Sir, going to industry and to electricity. For example, let's talk about electric cars, for example, as one of the fruitful results of focusing on, let's call it this way, clean industry. Where is Egypt in this regard?
Actually, Egypt has been moving forward into this direction a long time ago, and this happened when the Egyptian government decided to reduce the duty custom on all the imported electric vehicles, but keeping the ecosystem in Egypt moving forward into this direction means that we have to put a lot of more efforts. That's why we have been doing a lot of R&D to develop our own electric car. One of those potentials was supported highly by the Prime Minister of Egypt, which has been resulted in having a golden license to start building an electric vehicle in Egypt at a very low cost to meet the need for the people in Egypt.
To meet our local need, the needs of our local market,
Correct,
you mean,
correct.
but also to move to
Export as
exporting.
well. Definitely, yes. Because as you have noticed, the global economy crisis is not only affecting the people outside of Egypt, but also affecting the market in Egypt. And you can notice that the automotive prices has been doubled or sometimes tripled. That's why we are doing our best to develop our own technology to produce a car in the prices of the production of the cars outside of Egypt. When I say this, if the car is being produced outside of Egypt for $10,000, when it comes to be sold in Egypt, it will be at least double this price. What we are trying to do is we have been designing a car that suit the demand for the majority of people who are using this car mainly in the city centers, or using it to transport inside the city. This car is going to be in a price of maybe 200,000 to 400,000 Egyptian pound, which is not existing anymore in the Egyptian market. But in the same time, the usage of the car, the operation cost is even much more less expensive than the gasoline car. It can be like 25% of the gasoline car.
Oh, 25%?
At least.
This is great.
If not less.
Yeah. Sir, let me see the opportunity, as I do have an expert in energy and industry in the same time. All the time, you are going to find the industry as the first sector to blame for environment pollution, for pollution in general. And for example, if we took the plastic, in specific plastic industry, you would find it one of the very first, let's say, categories or on top of the agenda. When we can say that the plastic industry here in Egypt is going to be that innocent and we are not going to consider it as one of the big pollutants?
Actually, plastic is something that you can blame sometimes, but something that you can thank sometimes.
Oh.
Yes, plastic is a product that you can easily produce rather than the wood. If you want to make let's say this nice vase, if you do it in wood, it will take you at least 1 hour. If you do it in plastic, it will take you 1 minute.
Oh.
But in the same time, if we need a product that meet the people demand with respect to cost, plastic will fulfill this need. In the meantime, plastic is not wearable. I mean wearable when you plastic bags, if you throw it to the water, it will not deteriorate. It will stay there, and sometimes
it will not dissolve.
It will not dissolve.
Yeah.
It will cause sometime damage to the fish life under the water. That's why they blame plastics. But plastic can be recycled. If plastic is collected in a good way, being recycled, it will keep doing its benefit to produce a low-cost product. That's why we have been doing the same in Egypt. Plastic is one of the most or one of the biggest industry all over the world. There is no one living in this globe does not wear a shirt with a plastic, thing in his.
Let me put my question in other words, sir. How we can have this balance between the economic development regarding our industry segment and in the same time to maintain our environment or to keep our environment safe? Is this applicable, or this is something which cannot be achieved, of course not 100%, or can be achieved step by step? And we started already the first step in the right direction.
It is definitely applicable in case if we do the proper recycling for plastic. If we just keep using the plastic and when it comes to an life end of these parts and we throw it away, definitely it will cause a harm for the environment. The thing is we have to make a proper recycling solution for the plastic items all over the world. And this will even help to reduce the cost of the product later on. It's a complete ecosystem. If we don't build the ecosystem, then we do not get the full benefit of the system.
Sir, I'm just seizing the opportunity as I do have the one who is responsible for the applicable research.
Correct.
In one of our high-profile education institutions, because when there is no gap between research and between what's going on the ground, and the research results are implemented already, meaning we are on the right direction.
Definitely, yes.
I'd like to know more about that and how the research are implemented on the ground for the best interest of our industrial sector.
Actually, what you are saying is one of the main prime mover for the economies of big countries. If you notice that China and United States are competing against each other because each one of those has a proper investment in research and development, which lead into producing a product that is very unique to this country.
Yeah.
What we are trying to do in Egypt as well is, instead of buying products from outside of Egypt, which is mainly machinery, when it comes to machinery, most of the machinery are made in either United States of America, Europe, or in China. And we still keep buying those machines into Egypt at a very high cost, which is basically not the cost of the material being used to design or develop this machine, but moreover, the cost of the design, the cost of the R&D. We already have a lot of engineering colleges all over Egypt that do a lot of research. Unless this research is applied into the workshop to produce a product, then it's not, highly welcome to develop the country economy. What we are trying to do is we are trying to put this research into designing a product that will benefit the national economy of Egypt. One of those products is plastic injection machines. As I mentioned earlier, plastic industry is one of the biggest industry all over the world. Plastic injection machine, which is the machine used to produce anything, starting from the pen, the laptop case, the TV cover, every house.
Syringe.
Every syringe, yeah.
Syringe.
Everything.
I mean, it's all related together. I mean, today, even Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli, before addressing the medical tourism conference, he inspected the exhibition of the medical tourism components. Those components, if I am instilling or localizing their industry here, meaning I am going to save a lot of money, and particularly foreign currency.
Yes.
And if not, meaning that it's still a long way, and we should have this on the ground, I mean, applicable.
Correct.
So this can be an example?
This is one of the real example that we are doing in Egypt. As I mentioned earlier, believe it or not, machines bought from China, if we do have the same Egyptian design for a similar machine, the cost will be 50% of the machine coming from China.
How? I mean, to attract more, whether direct or indirect investment here, or, for example, to use, of course, now we do have many industrial zones. Many industrial zones. I'm not going to mention, a zone and to leave the other because they are scattered all over Egypt. What to do? Where to start from?
One of the things that the Egyptian government has to do, the Egyptian industry ministry is putting a lot of effort to make industrial zones putting the infrastructure needed, giving low-cost lands for the investors. But one of the things they should concentrate on is they support the industrial companies by developing their product. They need to really involve research and development, because unless the industry is doing a highly technical value product, they will not be able to survive. They will keep suffering from the low margin because they don't have a lot of technology value in their product. And most of the product that are bringing money into the country is the product which has a lot of technology value inside. Everyone knows this example. The mobile phone material cost will be like 20% of the cost of the mobile phone, although the 80% is the cost of the design and software. Many countries in Europe and everywhere is getting a lot of foreign currency from software design, from design of machines, but not from selling the raw materials. And this is what we are trying to do in Egypt, is to improve the industry environment from suffering and selling product which has very low technical value inside, into designing a highly technical products to compete not only with the imported product coming inside Egypt, but also to export outside.
Competitiveness.
Competitiveness, definitely, yes.
Yeah. And of course, it's very important to know where the other countries ended and to start from where they ended, not to start from scratch.
Correct, yes.
Is this what's going on the ground in various domains?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, Egypt is not now doing the low-cost products to survive, but even doing the high...
No, if you permit me, and I'm sorry for the interruption, I'm not speaking here about what took place yesterday. Because you mentioned China, for example. I'd like to focus on, for example, China maritime industry, Germany auto industry, Japan electronics. I mean, to take from each the best they have and to start from where they ended. Is this what's going on?
Definitely it is, and one of the techniques to cope up with the high-tech countries is to do what's called technology transfer programs.
Yeah.
You don't have to reinvent the wheel, but sometimes you can cooperate with some big companies outside of Egypt in those countries like China and Europe, not by bringing disassembled product and assemble it in Egypt, by even having the design, having the know-how, which we do not have in Egypt. And from this step, we built up further. So we don't start from scratch, we start big and keep growing.
Sir, every time I speak with an expert, and particularly when it comes to innovation, to think out of the box, to speak about our youth as the main treasure and the main wealth we have, this is giving me not only the impression, the fact that Egypt 2030 is coming that close and that we are on the right direction. How do you see our youth thinking this way? I mean, it's not only about, of course, money is very important, funding is very important, but how do you see those words? Sustainability, innovation, sustainable development goals, Egypt 2030.
Let me start by youth. As you mentioned earlier, in Egypt, there are a few big companies which are using Egyptian graduates to develop products under the name of the foreigner companies. I'm not going to mention the company names, but let me say that big companies making automotive in Germany are using software inside those cars that is made in Egypt. In the smart village, there are few companies. Inside those companies, there are between 400 to 500 Egyptian young engineers who is doing this. What is missing there is we need, instead of doing this for foreigner companies in Egypt, is to have Egyptian company using Egyptian youth to make this for an Egyptian product to have the real value. And instead of getting opportunity to offer jobs for those people, we need to grow economy by growing Egyptian industry as well. Sustainability will come next when you have a growing business, and this growing business will invest some of this revenue into R&D, and this will produce a lot of feeding industry to grow and get this bigger by time.
Meaning that, of course, mega projects are very important and they are part and parcel of our economic development in general. But SMEs, the small, medium, macro even projects are very important.
Definitely.
And we just need the brainstorming, the innovation, and then the fruitful results are going to be harvested on the ground. If you agree with me on that.
Definitely. As I mentioned earlier, having this small plastic injection machine, it can be a factory inside every startup graduate. I mean by this is if the machine cost is 50% of the cost in China, this means that the Egyptian small factory will be more competitive to a similar one in China.
Yeah.
So definitely we need to focus on, as you mentioned, small SMEs, people who are trying to be entrepreneurs, supporting them not only by money, not only by giving them a piece of land.
Non-financial services are as important as financial services.
Correct.
And I just wanted to mention that because also during the inspection tour of Prime Minister Dr. Madbouli in the exhibition of the Medical Tourism Conference and Exhibition, he had dialogue with the pavilions of the private sector companies who are participating in this conference. And to have this strategic partnership, if I may call it this way, between the public and private sector in all domains, this is to guarantee that this is going to be a story of success, whether it's industry, agriculture, or in any other domain. If you also agree with me on that.
Of course, definitely, yes. Supporting of the Egyptian government to private sectors is the prime mover for the successful economy system.
Sir, also, if you permit me, because I think that all the ideas are coming together because they are all related to our industrial, energy, and environment sectors. Because this is a very important point which was mentioned by His Excellency Engineer Tara El Molla, Minister of Petroleum, when he was participating in this important gathering in Algeria. Engineer El Molla pointed out that Egypt's participation in the BRICS group contributes to strengthening cooperation and trade relations between Egypt and other countries. How do you see the trust of many, let's say, international economic institutions to include Egypt and to have Egypt as part and parcel now of many economic groups?
Definitely, this is a certificate of success. Countries all over the world are seeing the high potential in Egypt, not only by the location, but also by the youth, by the entrepreneurs, by the economy which is growing, and getting trust from the international banks and different organizations. And definitely joining such gathering is giving the trust for the Egyptian economy to be trusted by the investors to come into Egypt and put a lot of investment to grow together into cooperation and having a lot of success together. Definitely it is.
Yes, amen to that. And also, it's now usual to have many exhibitions here in Egypt, like Egypt's 2024, as it's now a platform where hundreds of participants are coming from all over the globe to share, to participate, to ink deals, to exchange points of view, to exchange trade deals. And it's attracting more visitors or more participants a year after the other. How do you see also the trust of those participants to come to Egypt every year to participate in such exhibitions, knowing well that it's going to be a win-win situation and they are going to turn back with deals inked?
Actually, Egypt is one of the very attractive markets all over the world. If you focus on the Middle East, you will find that Egypt is the biggest populated country all over the Middle East, which means that having your investment inside this country will guarantee a good market for your product, first of all, and then will get use of the reasonable cost employers with reasonable cost labor, as well as the talented graduates from the colleges and universities. This equation has a lot of factors inside. All of them are putting a positive sign to the decision of you coming into investing, doing business, and cooperating with Egyptian countries and companies in Egypt.
Taking into consideration also that Egypt is the gate to Africa.
Definitely, yes.
And this is another added value.
Of course, yes, it is.
Sir, also, I'm not going to skip mentioning that the sidelines diplomacy, if I may call it this way also, when our president or when any of our top executives or our ministers are participating in such important gatherings like the one in Algeria, all the time you would find meetings on the sidelines of the event. For example, Engineer El Mullah had such meetings with his counterparts from Russia and from other Arab countries to make sure that boosting cooperation is always there and to boost our bilateral relations in various domains, and here particularly in the field of energy, is always there on the table. How do you see these meetings?
Definitely having such meetings with counterparts from different countries is putting, again, the trust and the cooperation efforts into action. When you talk about Russia, although there is a conflict between Russia and the Western countries, still Russia is one of the biggest natural gas producer all over the world. Having such a meeting means that Egypt is in a good position to speak to such big players in the economy of the natural gas. Doing this definitely will put us in a position to move forward and get the trust from everyone.
To echo what you have just said, the two sides stressed the important and continuing role of the oil and gas industry in securing global energy supplies in parallel with the development of renewable energy resources, especially with the availability of technological solutions to reduce emissions and remove carbon from all stages of the oil and gas value chain.
Yes, definitely.
This is exactly what they have said.
Yes.
Sir, let's be that frank without diplomatic words. What are the most important obstacles or challenges on the way? I mean, of course, it's not that rosy. What are the most important difficulties we have when it comes to localizing our industry in various domains and in various sectors, by the way?
The most challenging thing in Egypt nowadays is not having the R&D talents. We do have a lot of talents being graduated every year. It's all about putting this into action. It's all about getting the Ministry of Industry putting more efforts, more investment into getting use of those people to do real R&D. Putting those together, the industry from one side, the R&D activities from another side, under the, let's say, under the control of the industry businessmen, because the businessman of the industry is focusing on into having a product that is giving him a competitive edge to be able to compete against others from different countries, but he cannot do that without research. He cannot do that unless there is a real cooperation between both of them. Sometimes the private sector will not be very willing to invest, and this is the time for the government of Egypt, which is already putting a lot of resources for R&D, but in a different direction. But this time we have to put it in the industry. As you know, and everyone is saying that industry can be the prime mover for the Egyptian economy. Exporting our product will never happen unless we have a development to produce a highly tech product that can compete outside of Egypt. For example, automotive industry in Egypt has never been into a position to compete outside because we never invested a lot of R&D. Unlike Morocco now is been attracting different companies from all over the world, doing a lot of research, and their automotive industry is highly developed in their environment. We need to do similar things to be able to compete and move forward.
But if you permit me, sir, there are a lot of efforts exerted by the state, like the golden license, as you have kindly mentioned, like even having an idea about all the factors which stopped because of funding issues and money issues and stuff like that, and that now they restarted their activities once again, and this is also scattered all over Egypt, not in a certain place. I can mention Al-Ashr min Ramadan, October 3, in Damietta, Rubaiki. You would find many zones all over Egypt where you would find all the factories, or even the small ones, they are back to work. Even workshops, they are back to work. What do we need more? Do you mean, I think no more bureaucracy, and there are field visits, not only by His Excellency Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Al-Madbouli, but also by the ministers themselves, and to have this direct dialogue with the new entrepreneurs and startups.
Actually, putting this into action will need some different strategy. One of the main challenges for those factories are getting foreign currency to be able to import the production material. And this has been a challenge even until today. Everyone is looking forward for the new program that the Egyptian government is announcing. We have signed, the Egyptian government has signed a new project with the United Arab Emirates to
Ras Al Hikmah. And already we received the first 2 tranches.
Definitely, and some of those receivables has to go directly to support the industry of Egypt.
Done.
This is what we are looking for, and this is sometime has to be the top priority of the Egyptian government, because the industrial environment has been waiting for this.
Thank God, and there are all the time efforts exerted by the state to boost our investment and economic environment, and inshallah we are going to continue on the right direction.
Inshallah.
Well, I enjoyed our discussion, and sir, we are going to leave you with a promise to see you in more episodes of Money Means Business.
It was a pleasure for me. Thank you very much.
We were very much delighted and honored to have with us Dr. Mohamed Al-Ghamry, industry and energy consultant. And now we are going to leave you with the most important economic events which took place in the past 7 days. Till we meet again same time on Nile TV International. Many thanks for watching. This was Nirmina Abdurrahman.